So your grandfather.
My grandfather.
Okay.
Settled up on, well, it was a long story before that, but he came over from Norway when he was in his teens, early teens. And he got married to my grandmother, who was Swede. And he was Norwegian.
Now, had she been born in the United States or born in Sweden? Your
She
grandmother?
was born in Sweden.
Oh, okay.
He was, I give this for the benefit of
Megan.
of you.
Yeah.
And they were married and they had 5 kids. Well, then he heard of the iron ore being discovered up in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, on the Wasabi Range. And that was a boom area then. So he went up there when the town was just pretty lively. And there was a lot of cat houses there, in fact, you know. It was a big deal. So he went up and settled in this little town.
This is the story of the praying
But
man.
he
And
didn't,
went to work for
he didn't cheat on your grandmother.
huh?
He didn't cheat on your grandmother because there were a lot of cat houses.
Not my grandfather would
No.
do that.
It was just an aside to the
Why
story.
bring up the cat houses?
Anyway,
To heighten the suspense.
my grandfather went to work for a clothing store, a general store, really. You could sell clothing and everything else. Eric Johnson was his name, that owned the store. Well, anyway, my grandfather prospered and he opened his own dry goods store,
His name was
men's dry goods.
your
Huh?
grandfather's name was
My grandfather, Ben Larson.
Ben Larson. Okay.
So anyway, he, of course, we had the other businessmen in the town, you know. And so one of the businessmen was a photographer. He had a photography shop. And that was something new in those days, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, there's an old tramp came through town. That was a peddler, really. And the photographer looked at him and said, "See, he'd be a good subject for a photograph." So he hauled him in, and this guy was dressed rather shabbily. So he contacted my grandfather, who was nearby. And he lent him that shirt. So he posed this guy in his shop and took the picture. And that's the story how my grandfather got connected with that. I don't know whether they ever got the shirt back or not, or they donated the shirt to him or what. But anyway, this became a real famous photograph.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's official photograph of Minnesota or something.
Well, the thing is, you see it in all the good furniture stores and everything. But for years, I wondered why Bud's mother didn't have it in her house. So I bought it one time and gave it to her for Christmas. Lo and behold, she didn't ever have it because she thought that this old guy was a drunk. And she and her mother also, lips that touch liquor shall never, she had this thing about liquor and she thought he was a drunk. So I didn't know that when I gave her this picture.
This is Bud's mom or grandma?
Yeah, Bud's mother. So then finally she took it, but she didn't say anything. But I found out later the reason she had never had it was because she thought he was a drunk. And then I went back to the photography shop and I got pictures for all the kids.
So I think
I always thought it was a
somebody
painting.
painted it from
It
the
was a
picture.
painting, but now there's a bunch of prints of the painting.
Okay.
No, it was a photograph first.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was the and then somebody painted it and it became a famous
Yeah.
painting.
I wonder if that photographer would be famous then.
We have
The last time
we
we
have
were
that flyer.
And I've looked it up.
Yeah, the last time we were there, the photographer's shop was still there.
My grandmother belonged to the WCTU,
I think that everybody,
Women's Christian.
all your kids.
Hey, Joey.
come for the
I think the
story.
little flyer's in my card basket right down there.
Where were they living before they moved to Minnesota?
Give it to me.
Where were they living before they moved up there to?
Oh, in
Minnesota.
North Branch, Minnesota.
Oh,
That's over in more southern Minnesota.
oh.
South eastern part of the state.
And before that,
Before that, I don't know. She was born in
yeah, that's
a
right.
small town near where
Here it
my
is.
grandfather came from Norway.
The story of a much loved picture.
Oh,
Oh, it's called.
Enstrom Studio.
yeah, Angstrom Studio.
In 1918, a bearded, saintly man with foot scrapes to sell called on Eric Enstrom at his photography studio in the tiny mining town of Bovee, Minnesota. Out of this chance encounter came a world-famous photographic study. Oh, you know, this story is a little bit different than
Oh
what
yeah,
my family
I
tells.
would be. Didn't say anything about my grandfather.
Yeah, that's the secret we know.
Originally black and white, the photo was colorized by hand by Enstrom's daughter, Rhoda Nyberg.
Get it on the computer.
And it was the colorized version that attained widespread distribution. In 2002, an act of the Minnesota State Legislature established it as the state
Now, what did I say there?
photograph. It's the state photograph of Minnesota.
There you are.
Now we know.
But it doesn't say about it being a
Didn't
painting.
mention my name, huh?
Maybe
Later,
it's just a
Enstrom's
tinted
daughter
That's what I just read.
began hand painting them in oils,
Oh.
and interest in the picture soared.
Okay, see, this just says. it
A
was
moving
colorized by
testimonial
hand.
came from a businessman in nearby Grand Rapids who wrote about the picture in a newspaper column. He concluded the column with a simple, eloquent prayer to accompany the picture. And then there's a big long prayer.
There's a thing about when that woman died who colorized it.
I think you have that flyer in the back of your picture frame.
Did they have one?
Yeah.
I guess I gave one to Daniel and one to Nicholas.
Yeah. Did you give one to Nicholas? He was pretty young when we gave one to everybody.
I don't know.
The woman who did the coloring, the daughter, died at age 95 in 2012.
Dad, the woman who did the painting of it just died in 2012.
Oh, is that right?
In a nursing home near Proctor, Minnesota.
Yeah.
She was
That's
in a
right
nursing
outside
home.
Duluth.
That's where she died. Huh.
Now we know. I'm glad I asked. Got the full official story.